found yourself staring at a wall or pacing around the room, or even listening to your favorite music, having a full-blown conversation with someone who isn't actually there? Maybe it's your celebrity crush, and in your head, you're not just a fan. You're in a real relationship with them. You're talking about your day, they're listening, they understand you perfectly, and the whole moment feels surprisingly real. Or maybe it's not a celebrity. Maybe it's imagining a group of people who just completely get you. Friends who support you no matter what, or someone who notices when you're struggling and actually cares enough to help. For a moment, those imagined scenes can feel comforting, almost like you're in a different reality where you understood, supported, and valued in a way that feels really good. And sometimes, those daydreams usually take over more time than we expect. Today, we're talking about stress, the psychology behind escaping into our thoughts, and something called maladaptive daydreaming. Hey guys, and welcome to Safe Space Psychology with Anna. I created this space because I know how confusing and overwhelming teenage emotions and mental health can sometimes feel, and I wanted a place where we can talk about those experiences openly and honestly, and most importantly, anonymously. In this podcast, we'll be exploring relatable psychology topics that many teens deal with in everyday life, from stress and overthinking to identity and emotional struggles. Each month, I'll break down psychological ideas in a simple, understandable way, share practical coping skills, and create a space where you can reflect, learn, and feel less alone. My goal is to build a community where teens can better understand their emotions, support each other, and gain tools that actually help in real life. So if you're looking for honest conversations about mental health and psychology, you're in the right place. Okay, so before I get started, I just wanted to say a really quick reminder. This podcast is created by a student and is not a professional mental health advice. Everything I share here is for learning, reflection, and community support. Please check reliable sources, talk with trusted adults, and reach out to qualified professionals if you need guidance. You're not alone, and it's always okay to ask for help. Also, I will not be covering anything sexual or too deeply personal in both of my podcasts or my website. If you need help with any of those issues, please visit my website where there's a crisis resource center for additional support. Okay, so for the first episode, I wanted to talk about something basically every teenager experiences, which is stress. Stress can come from a lot of different places. It might be schoolwork, tests, college expectations, friendships, family responsibilities, or even just feeling unsure about the future. Sometimes it feels like there are so many things happening at once that it becomes overwhelming. A lot of people also start worrying when they notice physical symptoms like their heart beating really fast, headaches, stomach pain, or trouble sleeping. But most of the time, these reactions are actually part of a normal biological response that our bodies use to deal with challenges. So in this episode, we're going to talk about what stress actually is from a psychological perspective, why teenagers experience it so strongly, how it affects both mind and body, and some healthier ways to cope with it. I'll also talk about coping strategies that feel helpful in the moment but can actually make stress harder to deal with in the long run. First, let's talk about what stress actually is. From a psychological point of view, stress is the body's, brain's response to pressure or challenges. It's basically a survival mechanism that humans have had for thousands of years. When the brain thinks something is threatening or demanding, it activates what's called a fight or flight response. This response releases hormones like adrenaline and cortisol, which prepare the body to react quickly. Your heart rate increases, your breathing speeds up, and your brain becomes more alert. Originally, this system helped humans survive dangerous situations like escaping predators or other threats. But today, the brain sometimes reacts the same way to things that aren't physically dangerous, like big exams, presentation in class, or difficult conversation with someone, or even not finishing a simple task on time. So even though the situation isn't life-threatening itself, the body still goes into the alert mode. And something important to remember is that stress itself isn't always bad. In fact, small amounts of stress can actually be helpful. It can motivate people to study for a test, finish an assignment, or stay focused when something is important. The problem happens when stress becomes constant or overwhelming. When the body stays in the high alert state for too long, it can start affecting both mental and physical health. Teenagers often experience high levels of stress for several different reasons. One of the biggest ones is academic pressure. Schools can involve a lot of different responsibilities like assignment, exams, grades, extracurricular activities, and sometimes preparing for college or even future careers. Another factor is social pressure. Friendships, relationships, and social expectations can sometimes be difficult to navigate, especially when people are still figuring out who they are. Social media can also increase stress because people constantly see highlights of other people's lives, which can lead to comparisons or unrealistic expectations. Just keep in mind that people post their best version of themselves on social media. Me personally, I get so anxious whenever I open up social media because I know I'm going to constantly compare myself to these gorgeous influencers or even some of my friends. And just keep in mind that even though these might seem as a perfect figure on social media, they go through stuff too that they don't want to share online. And something that I also wanted to talk about was using them as a motivation. You don't always have to necessarily compare yourself to them. Just use them as a role model or a figure that you're looking up to, and use that version to make the better version of yourself. Okay, so another factor that I really wanted to talk about as well was family expectations, because many teenagers feel pressure to meet certain standards, succeed academically, or make decisions about their future earlier than they feel ready for. And on top of that, the teenage brain is still developing. The part of the brain responsible for decision making and emotional regulation is called the prefrontal cortex, and this continues developing in mid-20s. This means emotions can sometimes feel more intense and managing stress can be more challenging. So when you combine academic pressure, social expectations, uncertainty about the future, and a developing brain, it makes sense that many teenagers like yourselves experience stress frequently. Even though stress is unavoidable, there are healthier ways to manage it. One of the most helpful strategies is simply talking to someone you trust. This could be a friend, family member, teacher, or counselor. Talking about what's bothering you can often make the situation feel less overwhelming. And I'm very well aware that some people don't have these resources near them, which is one of the reasons why I created this space, because for those even with these resources around them, you might not feel as comfortable opening up about a specific situation. For example, there are some situations that I would really want to tell my best friend, even though she's my best friend and I love her and all that, I sometimes just wouldn't want to tell her stuff because I'm just too scared that it's too personal and too sensitive of a topic. So this is why I created this space. Just feel free to communicate with others through this platform and just connect with others that also are going through the same thing with you guys. Another strategy is physical movement. Exercise, even something simple like walking or stretching, helps release built up tension and can lower stress hormones. Journaling can also be helpful because writing thoughts down allows people to process emotions more thoroughly and organize what they're thinking. And sometimes this is what I do, since I don't really like writing down. I would just talk through stuff to myself. And I know it might sound crazy or bizarre, but I would just sit down on my bed and just think through everything that I went through that day, kind of being why, just questioning myself, and also kind of going through all the things that I went through and just kind of talking to myself to a wall. And some people find it helpful to listen to music, practice mindfulness or breathing exercise, or break large tasks into smaller steps so they can feel more manageable. Me personally, listening to music, and especially those kind of musics that relate to my situation, those lyrics that relate to my situation, and singing my heart out, I think that really helped me kind of release some tension in my body whenever I feel stressed. And something that's really important to remember is that coping with stress doesn't mean eliminating it completely. It's more about learning ways to manage it and kind of lessen it a little at the moment so it doesn't take over your whole entire life. Okay, so now I'm going to talk about kind of a bit of an unhealthy way to kind of deal with stress and those factors in your life. Sometimes when people feel overwhelmed, they try to escape from reality and stress instead of dealing with it and facing it. One thing is something called maladaptive coping behavior, which I talked about in the very beginning of this episode. These are habits that help someone temporarily avoid stress, but don't actually solve the problem, which worsens the problem later on. For example, some people might spend hours distracting themselves with social media, games, or excessive daydreaming to avoid thinking about real-life stress. In some cases, people develop something called MDD, maladaptive daydreaming. This is what I was talking about at the beginning of the episode, like I told you, where they spend long periods of time imagining detailed fantasy worlds instead of actually engaging with real life. While this can feel comforting in the moment, it can become problematic if it starts replacing real interactions or responsibilities. I really wanted to talk about maladaptive daydreaming because I personally went through it. We used to be doing this constantly, not knowing that it was actually negatively impacting me. I thought it was actually helping me because I felt so good at the moment. Maladaptive daydreaming can sometimes increase stress over time because it may cause people to avoid real-life responsibilities, relationships, and opportunities for personal growth. In many cases, the imagined scenarios feel more comfortable because the person has complete control over what happens. They can create situations where they feel successful, understood, or powerful in ways that might be harder to experience in real life. Because of that, the daydreams can start to fulfill emotions needs that aren't being met outside of them. However, when someone eventually stops daydreaming and reconnects with reality, they may be faced with the same problems they were trying to escape from, sometimes with even more pressure. This can make the person want to return to daydreaming again as a way to cope. Coming out of a long daydream can also feel uncomfortable because it can bring the realization that time has passed and opportunities may have been missed. Those feelings of regret and frustration can make it harder for someone to break the cycle. And this shows how maladaptive daydreaming might feel very good at the moment and might seem like a great coping skill, which I thought myself as well, but actually negatively impacts your mental health and also just adds on to the pressure, because when you snap back to reality, you're just facing the same problems you were trying to avoid all over again, and it's just like a hidden reality. So personally, what I did to kind of overcome the situation and kind of lessen my maladaptive daydreaming is how I timed myself. I would just promise myself 30 minutes a day, I'm just gonna daydream and then wander into my daydreams, and I'm gonna stop back out, and after that 30 minutes I will not go back in, and it's like a promise with myself. I feel like that actually helped limit stuff, because at one point in my life I would just start daydreaming for 3 to 4 hours, and by the time I snapped back to reality, it was already 10 p.m. and I still haven't done any of my homework. I still haven't talked to my friend about the one problem we had, and it was just so overwhelming for me afterwards when hitting back to reality. But also at the same time, I couldn't really stop because that was what made me feel included, accepted to the society and the community. And so just know that you're not alone, and also if you're going through this and you're willing to limit yourself from doing it, for me personally, timing myself and just keeping that promise with myself, only 30 minutes or even only 1 hour, that really worked for me. Okay, I'm gonna talk about a few more different things that is an unhealthy coping behavior, and they actually make stress worse in the long run. And one thing is what probably most of us do. It's procrastination. When a task feels overwhelming, it's easy to avoid it. It tells yourself you'll deal with it later on, which makes you feel, okay, I'll be fine at the moment, making yourself feel better. But usually the longer you wait, the more stressful it becomes. One way to reduce procrastination is by breaking large tasks into smaller steps. Instead of thinking about the entire assignment or project, focus on just starting with one small part. Even setting a short work period, 20 or 30 minutes, and then taking a break can make it easier to get started. And trust me, once you get started, everything becomes less intimidating. And for me, coming from a person who procrastinates 24/7 all the time, used to, what helps for me is I make a whole entire list of things that I have to do that day, from the least effort taking to the most. And what I would do is I would start from the least effort taking ones, and I would finish the first few assignments in literally 5 minutes, because they're so simple tasks, and that motivates me because I'm already done with 2 assignments, I can do more. That kind of motivates me. Okay, another habit a lot of people struggle with is excessive scrolling on social media. When you're stressed, it can feel relaxing to just scroll through videos or posts for a while, but sometimes people end up spending hours doing this without even realizing it. One way to reduce this is by setting time limits for social media or choosing specific times of the day to check it. Turning off notifications can also help, because constant alerts can pull your attention away from what you're trying to focus on. Some people also cope with stress by emotionally shutting down or ignoring their feelings completely. While this might seem easier in the moment, it can make emotions build up over time. Taking a moment to acknowledge how you feel, talking to someone you trust, or even writing your thoughts down in a journal, like I said, can help process those emotions in a healthier way. So make sure you just don't completely ignore the emotions and feelings you're going through, because for me, I used to do that and that does not help, trust me. And for me, processing my emotions with someone or without someone, it worked so much better. Anyways, the important thing is to remember that unhealthy coping habits don't develop overnight, and the same way they usually don't disappear overnight either. Reducing them is a gradual process, and small changes over time can make a big difference. So just because nothing really happened overnight or no changes were made, don't stress about it. Okay, one last thing before I go that I really wanted to talk about was setting boundaries. Recognizing the early physical signals of stress can help someone intervene before it becomes overwhelming. So don't try to find someone or try to do something after you have experienced all the overwhelmingness and all the stress that you are going through. Make sure you recognize it early on, try to find the causes of that, and go talk to a person before it even really happens. And also, creating boundaries around workloads, expectations, and environments that constantly cause stress can reduce how often the body activates fight or flight responses, which causes stress. Stress is something that every person experiences, especially during the teenage years. School responsibilities, social expectations, and uncertainty about the future can all contribute to feeling overwhelmed. But stress itself is not a sign that something is wrong with you. It's a natural response that the body and brain use to deal with challenges. The key is learning healthier ways to manage it, whether that means talking to someone, taking breaks, moving your body, or finding constructive ways to process emotions. It also is important to recognize when coping habits start becoming into avoidance, because dealing with stress directly is usually more helpful in the long run. Understanding how stress works can make a lot of things less confusing and a lot easier to manage. In the next episode, I'm going to be talking about rumination and overthinking, which also is the main cause of stress, but also something that many teenagers have to deal with and struggle with. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to follow the podcast and check out my social media pages, where I'll be posting updates and polls that you can choose to participate in the future. You can also visit my website to find more information about the podcast, and feel free to leave any questions or suggestions there. I may even answer some of them in the future episodes. Thanks for listening.